Okay, take two. Today we're talking about the lost books of the Bible, the forgotten books of Eden, and specifically the forgotten books of Eden, the books of Adam and Eve. And it's actually in the second half here. The forgotten books of Eden. The writing given to mankind's early pictures of the past and hopes for the future that have survived the devastation of the centuries, translated from manuscripts of the pseudepigraphal group, and this collection published now for the first time for the information and enjoyment of the layman, with notes suggesting the human interest inherent in these fundamental wisdom and beauty. So, this telling you that little notes are added and things. Uh, but these things have been in academia for a long time. But back in 1927 is when they were published. Even though I have not seen them, now it's finally getting to where you can get them anywhere. You just have to look. But most you won't hear about them in church. Churchianity and everything. Uh, and that's what kind of got me on. But I wanted to share this introduction here with you. Okay, it's an American Indian song is his very own. American Indian song is his very own. No other man can sing it without his explicit permission. It is impregnate with his aura. It is not in our sense, however, property. It is believed to invest magically the singer with the mood whence it proceeded, and must therefore merge in some way the performer's identity with that of the originators. To sing another song is an invasion of his personality, a sort of spiritual piracy involving sacrilege. When last year in Arcady and Adrazina, I introduced primitive shepherds to sing and play for me lustily all sorts of occasional songs and rituals. They refused to do a burial chant, most positively, for to perform one would surely cause a death in the house. Apparently they didn't take that stuff lightly. Indeed, anyway, a little reflection on these two paragraphs may perhaps make the reader realize that authorship was once a thing of great hazards. If one had something great and new to say and wanted to be circulated broadly, one would naturally prefer anonymity. Indeed, by the Hebrews, a story was popularly presumed to have its hero for its author. Moses wrote the account of his own death. Deuteronomy was, of course, his own work, although obviously intended to alter the traditional religion. Jonah wrote the little novel by himself. David was the author of the Psalms because reported to have instituted the first temple choir, and as a lad to have played the harp, soothing the nerves of King Saul. When the author for the book of Job was wanted, though the whole discussion of the book proves it was written to refute wisdom literature, which by tradition began with the Proverbs of Solomon, Moses was chosen as a suitable author. Yeah, so this is, we got to remember this is the introduction, but I really wanted to share with you about the Indian song is his own, and how this is kind of, so let's go on here though. For centuries, among the Jews, writers sought to shelter themselves behind the names of the great dead. In this they were guilty of no fraud. They imagined what Solomon or Enoch would say or sing upon a particular theme under a given circumstance. It was not really they themselves, but their Solomon, their Enoch, Solomon or Enoch in them, who uttered new prophecies or temple praises. Thus arose that body of literature called by modern scholars pseudepigrapha, that is, writing erroneously, unhistorically, yet sincerely ascribed to heroic figures, some from the vastly deep by self-denying imagination, eager to alter man's belief and custom to interpret his hope and sorrow without personal gain or fame, and also, may one add, without the deterrent of persecution to arrest from utterance. To arrest free utterance, excuse me. Now, it is foolish to modern prejudice against a nation piece of literature that its author veiled his person in this fashion. The only question is, was the writing of inherent value? Did it exercise influence? It is too much to say that no modern can intellectually understand the New Testament unless he is acquainted with the so-called Apocrypha and with the Pseudepigrapha as well. Let me read that again. It is not too much to say that no modern can intellectually understand the New Testament unless he is acquainted with the so-called Apocrypha and with the Pseudepigrapha as well. The very words of Jesus were in many instances suggested by different sayings current in this day, more or less as unconscious quotations from the Testaments of the 12 patriarchs, which those are in here too, and those are awesome. The figure of the Messiah, which Jesus adapted to his creative purpose, cannot be imagined by a modern without perusal of the Book of Enoch, which is its classic and most entrancing glorification. Without the odes and songs of Solomon, the atmosphere breathed by the earliest church cannot be divined. Hitherto, access to this literature has been confined to technical scholars. This assembly would require special information and considerable expenditure. With this enterprise of the Alpha House Inc., it becomes democratic property. We shall have a more intelligent clergy and laity when this volume has taken its place in every library, and its familiarity brought into every discussion of the historic Christ and his times. Now, if that would have happened back in 1927, like this introductory thought, then maybe if it might be in every library, we wouldn't know because we don't go. We order it. And I think when he meant in every library, that's, he wasn't talking about the town library, but the library in your home, because in 1927, like, you had a TV. That's what you did. You had a library in your home. So, anyway. We're going to read the first book of Adam and Eve on the next video. I just want to do an introduction to the books to get a little bit of background.